for being here. We are very happy to introduce you to our festival program. As Arjen mentioned, there are three of us. Lubo you will see a bit later. Yes, she's an independent AI researcher and curator. Yasmin is a curator at the ZKM Center in Germany, and I'm a media artist and curator. So the three of us have come together to think about this condition of post-truth era in which we're also at the same time surrounded by very advanced algorithms. So we're going to briefly present our theme for Impakt 2018, algorithmic superstructures, and we're going to suggest some ideas on what they might be and how we can deal with them, and also give you a little preview of what kinds of artists and theorists you can meet in October. So. This is me doing that? These are algorithms. This is not me. So, as we all know, in our capitalist society, which already in the 1960s was called highly technological, was called information and knowledge society, the creation and manipulation of data is a central thing. So half a century later, meaning now, we're already surrounded by things which we're not entirely understanding, like big data, like recommendation mechanisms, machine learning, and other things. So who are we just saying that? Just saying that we live in a world that has gone beyond our understanding. We don't find productive. Still fighting. The battle of technology. So what we would like to do, we would like to challenge this idea and to suggest algorithmic superstructures as a way of knowing the actual world beyond human apprehension somehow. So, as Donald Trump at some point said, the whole age of computer has made it where nobody knows exactly what's going on. Which is all the most emblematic for the fact that it's Benjamin Bratton sitting in front of him. So we would like to think about algorithmic superstructures as a matter of design of the world. These superstructures overlay the traditional systems in which we are involved: politics, art, media, labor, and at times they start to actively take over these systems. So, as algorithmic superstructures exist within a capitalist society, their construction is enabled by three elements: the big data, software, and digital self. So the success of any machine learning technology depends on the quality and the quantity of data that they're supplied with. And as we engage with the algorithms on a daily basis, as we willingly contribute the information about ourselves through these software structures, the corporations get access to big data. They get to have a technological double of our society. And then the decision-making process of what exactly we see and how we see it is delegated to an algorithm. It's out of our hands. So the culture itself, in this case, becomes automated. And we already speak about a society that is not just using automation in industrial sense, but also in the sense of automation of concepts and automation of thought. So in this whole technological salad, the interface becomes the point where the rules of engagement are determined. And at the same time, it's the interface where the user doesn't stop seeing the algorithmic logic. So it's at the same time, when we use something, the corporations already have inserted actionable protocols that we are accepting as a given, which creates, of course, a troubling opacity that we are describing. And finally, of course, we have this element of ourselves, which by being quantified, we make us machine readable. Of course, we become a new kind of digital citizen, subject not only to this legal framework that we're all used to, but also to new structures of gray area of the algorithmic governance.
Yes. So we live in times of great political instability, and we are witnessing a rise in populism and a polarization towards both sides, the left and as well as the right. And the democratic foundations seem to be actively being hollowed out, and a new deep gray zone operating system being placed in its stead. And this is what we like to think of as algorithmic superstructures, which constitute a systemic change in which in the ways in which power is operated. And so algorithmic superstructures establish themselves as a generative force that creates a different framework for how governance is usually operated. And so to give you an example of how maybe an artist has thought of a future scenario, how this form of governance may take shape, is Ego Kraft's film Erkis, where he has coined the term of parametric democracy, in which state and corporations have been rendered obsolete, and a more collectively owned and globally distributed network makes or takes over state functions.
So there's a political model where governance is done directly by the citizens, but with the help of AI. So let's imagine that everything happens on this huge platform that's constantly updated and reassembled depending on our needs. 50% of the system is algorithms that are trained on constitutions and histories of the past. And another 50% is what we call parametric democracy. So we're able to effectively make decisions every second instead of voting every 4 years or so, right? Legislation is usually applied locally, for example. If you go to one neighborhood,
So we can also say that algorithms are not a neutral entity, but they are actively being used to create statistical models that characterize, that simulate, and that predict human action, and thus cause new forms of violence and injustices. And the key to the big data undertaking is the way in which it is correlated, that allows for assemblages of profiles of individuals and groups that determine the so-called normal behavior from the abnormal. And so the implementation of predictive analytics aims to determine forms of social deviation and is used for preemption. And I wanted to show you a quick excerpt from a very recent example.
By having hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Americans undertake this survey, we were able to form a model to predict the personality of every single adult in the United States of America. So how does this impact marketing and communications in elections? For a primary, the Second Amendment might be a popular issue amongst the electorate. If you know the personality of the people you're targeting, you can nuance your messaging to resonate more effectively with those key audience groups.
Sorry. So this, I hope you can see that this is highly problematic, but this condition is making problematic how factuality and how actuality is constructed in our society. This reasoning by algorithms constitute a break in the cause and effect that we were used to for such a long time, and introduce a new kind of reality. So this reality we see as some kind of probabilistic future-oriented thing that stands in place of our usual ideas of how truth and objectivity can be constructed. This also, and this would be quite a prominent thing in our festival, the algorithms constitute quite powerful new regimes of visuality. They not only introduce the blending of virtual and physical spaces, the nonlinear modes of narrative, but also weird audiovisual cultures coming from computational kinds of cinema, like GIFs, like networks, fast-paced, attention-based way of exchanging moving image. And also we present quite a big range of works. For example, this film by Christian von Boris, Desert of the Real, which is a point of entry into this overall collapse of representation. So for this, he literally visits the places of kind of hollowed out reality. He goes to Abu Dhabi, where the greatest weapons fair are happening. He goes to places like Chinese malls, like this one, where complete replicas of Venice are made, with gondolas and singing. So this is quite an interesting, brutal way of putting you into this virtual reality that exists in actual physical space. And also it's a feature film, so while you're seeing all of this, you start having doubts about if the actual real is real. On the other side of this would be Ian Cheng, who completes new realities through game engines. So he generates life simulations and works that generate endlessly under their own rules and have no reference to existing reality, or at least not to how we are used to seeing it.
Yes, so these are among the many questions we raise in the festival, and now to introduce the film that you are, or that we all are going to watch now. It is raised by or it is perhaps caused by this instability in which we are struggling to find new norms and regulations as to how to deal with the algorithmic, and to find a new ethical understanding of what is happening and how we can deal with the situation. So we will just leave you to it and enjoy the film screening.